Hi, and welcome back to Mr. Raymond's Social Studies Academy for our AP Government series with today's lesson on core American values and political socialization. So let's start with what our AP refers to as quote-unquote unique American core values and how they impact attitudes about the role of the government. Your AP benchmark will want you to be able to identify 5 of these core values: individualism, equality of opportunity, free enterprise, limited government, and the rule of law. Starting with individualism, remember that this country started, and we'll ignore for the time being the fact that it was already inhabited by Native Americans, but this country, as we know it today, was settled by European immigrants who came to this land seeking a new life, and that spirit of individualism came with them. The concept of American individualism is still celebrated today, as many value the idea of self-responsibility and self-reliance, and that individualist value impacts American attitudes towards our elected officials, many of whom want to be free of governmental interference. With the concept of self-reliance and individualism comes our next core value, quote-unquote, equality of opportunity. The concept that every American should have an equal chance to succeed. Equality of opportunity embraces the idea that through hard work, education, and determination, anyone has a chance to become successful in this country. However, there are some that question if America truly does provide an equal playing field. After all, when Thomas Jefferson declared that all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence, it's often pointed out that he owned slaves at the time and that women had very little rights. During our civil rights section, we talked about affirmative action policies and the Equal Rights Amendment, so equality of opportunity continues to be discussed to this day. However, as some debate this value, Americans still cherish the concept that anyone can accomplish whatever they set their mind to in this country. Now, there was an AP question a few years ago asking, does equality of opportunity mean that everyone believes that there should be economic equality? Well, the answer was no. And as you can see from this chart, wealth disparity in this country continues to be an issue for Americans. Our next core value is free enterprise. That the entrepreneurial spirit that thrives in this country depends on a laissez-faire policy, one in which minimal governmental intrusion into our economic affairs is best. In our next lecture, we will look at the different views over the government's role in the economy, as the government does implement policies such as setting minimum wages and regulations that impact the workplace. However, the spirit of free enterprise continues to be a value embraced by most Americans. Our next core value is a limited government, and we have already discussed a variety of examples in this course of how limited government is implemented. The establishment of our Bill of Rights, the checks and balances incorporated into our Constitution, a concept we looked closely at with James Madison's Federalist 51. Limited government has been a hallmark value of the United States since its inception. And this, again, is a big theme for your course. In fact, protecting our rights against governmental tyranny is often hotly debated to this day. In our balance between protecting our rights versus our need for security and stability. We looked at the Patriot Act passed after 9/11, which puts our right to privacy against the need to fight terrorism front and center. And during the coronavirus pandemic, issues of liberty versus governmental mandates have also been part of the national dialogue. Finally, our last core value is the rule of law at the heart of our justice system. This is the concept that nobody is above the law, and not even our elected governmental officials. Unlike many nations, even our top leaders, our presidents, have run up against the rule of law, only to have the U.S. Supreme Court rule against them. As one of the most recent additions to that court, Justice Kavanaugh wrote in a recent opinion, quote unquote, "In our system of government, as this court has often stated, no one is above the law. And that principle applies, of course, to a president." In the second part of our lecture, which is even shorter, we are going to look at our next AP benchmark, political socialization, or how people develop their political beliefs. Political socialization is the process by which people acquire their political values, beliefs, and opinions. And the three primary influencing factors for political socialization are family, school, and church. Without a doubt, family is the number one socializing impact of our political ideology, as a recent poll found that 70% of teenagers shared their political views with those of their parents. Religion also plays a significant role in socializing American political views. And what religion you are and how devout someone is can play a significant role in shaping their political ideologies. We'll take a closer look at this when we get to political parties. Finally, Americans can be politically socialized by what AP refers to as secondary sources, such as the media, your peers, and famous opinion leaders. And we are going to take a closer look at the media's role in politics in an upcoming lecture. Okay, one of our last things we have to consider for our exam is what is often referred to as the life cycle or generational effects in political opinions. For instance, elderly Americans might be more concerned in governmental policies on programs such as Social Security or Medicare, while younger voters might be more focused on the job market and, say, unemployment numbers, or maybe college tuition costs and debts. And again, that's often referred to as the life cycle effect. The generational effect, which is pretty much the same thing, can be shaped by major events in U.S. history and their impacts on those who live through them. For instance, the baby boomer generation, which despite my students' insistence I am not a part of, okay, boomer, a generation who experienced the Vietnam War and the Watergate crisis, saw an erosion of public trust in their governmental officials, one that has continued to trend downward. And it'll be interesting to see how the impact of 2020 on ideologies and future generations plays out. Finally, for your AP, we need to consider the impact of globalization on our political ideology. As people, businesses, and countries have become more and more interconnected, especially with the rise of the internet and social media, has globalization blurred the lines of those core American values that we discuss? And what impact will globalization have on America in the future? Well, we will look closer at all of the main political ideologies, political parties, and more in our next lesson. But until then, stay safe, my friends.